everybody. So, welcome back. One of my last videos was showing you how to take an old book and begin to transform it into a junk journal. So today what I'm going to do is show you how to make the signatures that go inside the book. Junk journals are made up of just a bunch of miscellaneous papers, and that's what makes them junk journals. There are so many wonderful videos on YouTube about making junk journals. These are just, the ones I'm doing are just my version, and I got so much inspiration over, the past year or so since I started making junk journals from so many wonderful people on YouTube. And I'm going to put some of my favorites down below. It's a very, very small list, but if you want to, kind of explore further, I will let you know the ones that I really enjoy watching and getting inspiration from. So now that we have our book cover completed, we're going to make the signatures, and I want to talk to you about some different papers that you can use in your junk journals. When you're making a junk journal, you can use just absolute junk. That's where the term originally came from. Or the things that you would normally throw away, you can turn into pages for your junk journal. So just some examples for you. Here I have a piece of ledger paper that I'm going to use. Here is an old dictionary page. This is a index card, and probably one from the dollar store that I tea stained. And if you want to tea stain papers, there are a million videos on how to, well, maybe not a million, but there's a lot of really wonderful videos on how to do tea staining. This is a scrap piece of scrapbook paper. This is another piece of scrapbook paper, another card. Here's just some regular notebook paper that I have. Here I have some graph paper, but here's some more of those Edith Holden pages, the illustrations, and again, scrapbook paper. And here's some regular copy paper that I tea stained myself. You can also do coffee staining. Who do junk journals, a lot of times there's a vintage theme to them, which is really kind of cool, especially for the old papers and things like that. So, the book that we're kind of doing together here that I'm showing you definitely has a vintage vibe to it. And with that in mind, I have some, I'm putting in some tea stained papers and things, but not, like this graph paper isn't tea stained. It could be, but it's not a big deal. Again, it's a junk journal. So it's whatever you want to put into it. And here are some book pages, and I'm going to show you things that you can do with those book pages, other crafts that don't have anything to do with junk journaling, and how to use them in your junk journal. Here is a sign language dictionary page. I have several sign language ASL dictionaries, and this one was one that I've had for, oh my gosh, over 20 years, and the binding was falling apart, so I undid the rest of it. And I thought, this is great. I can use some of these pages in my junk journal. Anyway, more paper. Here's something. So I have a couple of farmers' almanacs that, what was the date on this one? They're the early 1900s or the late 1800s. I can't remember which book I pulled this one from, but so these are really old vintage pages, and I really think that's cool. Somebody wrote in here that they were sick and that they were paid on this day, and then they were paid on this day, and I just think that's really cool. So anyway, you can use all kinds of old papers, whatever you have. This is a glassine bag, and I can't remember where I got it from, but I'm going to put this in my junk journal. More paper. This is a treat bag from the dollar store. It came in a pack of like 10 or whatever it was. So I'm going to use this in here also. This is a brown paper bag. I use this in my junk journal. Here are some doilies that I got from the dollar store, and I think that these are just fun to use in your junk journals also. And these are some bags, obviously from Whole Foods, that I'm going to turn into pages for my journal as well. And I will put a link to the tutorial below. The way I made these, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name off the top of my head right now, but you know, just having different textures in your junk journal, different colors, different papers, that's what makes a junk journal a junk journal. Here's a great example of something that you can recycle to use in your junk journals. I love Trader Joe's graphics. They're very like steampunkish. So I think this would make great pages for a junk journal. And I love how it's this one big giant sheet. So I'm going to cut this up to use in the journal that we're making. Okay, also for our junk journal, we're going to use some papers that I'm going to have links below for you. This is a piece of sheet music that I got off the internet. It is copyright free. It's old. I don't know exactly what year. And it's a little blurry, but I also kind of distressed the page a little bit to make it look tea-stained and a little antique-y. And this is going to be available for you guys to use. A lot of people use sheet music in their junk journals, and it's real sheet music, which you can pick up sometimes at Goodwill or at an antique store. So if you'd like to go rummaging, you can find some really great stuff for your junk journals. So that's something else we're going to use. Also, when you use your like scrapbook papers, sometimes, let's see, I have an example here. So here's a piece of a just regular scrapbook paper that I happen to have, but it's white on this side and I don't want it to be white. So one of the things that I've done is I've put together some journal pages, and these are 8.5 by 11. And what you can do is you can, you know, imagine this sheet of scrapbook paper is 8.5 by 11. I have cut it down, but if it was just a regular sheet, you could trim it to 8.5 by 11. You put it in your printer, and you can print this out on the opposite side so that you have a journal page. This one I did print on some scrapbook paper, and I did that a couple times. So I don't have this was my scrapbook paper, and I printed this on the other side, and I do have this file available for you guys. And I did it a couple times with some different scrapbook papers. This is another, and so picture it like this. Eventually when we put our book together, it's going to be in half like this, and we're going to, you know, nest the papers to make signatures, so you know you'll have your a journal page in there. This is another one, but that's sort of the same. So I have a couple different ones. This one has lines on it, and this one says journal and notes, and you can use whatever ones you want. Also, so one of the other things I did, when you look at other YouTube sites and all the amazing junk journals there are out there, and there are some just beautiful journals and people who are so incredibly talented. And one of the things you'll start to see as you watch some of those journals is that people use digital kits. So I put together a few digital pages for you guys that are going to be free, and eventually in my Etsy shop, these will be part of kits, other digital kits that I'm currently working on. And I'll have links to some other Etsy stores that I really love and I have purchased digital kits from in the past. But I wanted to make sure that you guys had, you know, if you're not a scrapbooker, if you don't have scrapbook paper hanging around your house, and I have a ton of it, but not everybody does. So I wanted to make sure that I could give you some decorative pages to use in your junk journal and kind of show you all the different things that you can use to make signatures. So we have this one, and I printed journal pages on the other side. And then we have this one, and journal pages on that side. This is a repeat, but just with a different journal page on it. And then this is the last kind of decorative page, again with more journal space on the other side. So those files will be available to you guys as well. So now I'm going to take all of my miscellaneous papers and I'm going to put together, I think I'm going to do 3 signatures of about maybe 8 pages each. My 3 signatures, and they ended up having about 10 pages each in them. And let me show you what they look like when they're in the book. So this is what it's gonna be like before we start to embellish it. And it's amazing how quickly it goes from something that's flat until it's, you know, kind of really, really full. So when you put your signatures in, if you're looking at it going, gee, that's not very full, we're going to put embellishments in it. And also when you start to actually use your journal, it fills up very quickly, and you want to make sure you have some room for that. So if you have any questions, please leave me comments down below and let me know, and I would be happy to answer them. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready for our next step. Okay?